This is Van Electric Ghost, and we're live on the air on our Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook channels with Zohara for the first time. And you're living in Austria, right? But you're from Israel.
Yeah.
So before we get into the whole story with the Zohara and our music, we're actually going to show like a YouTube version of our music so people can hear what we're talking about. We do have a sponsor this week. We have a Double Jack online, and you can see there's a link below. We've got a code here that you can scan with your phone, and then we also have this bigger code that we're going to actually put up in a second. So yeah, that's the big one. So if you use your phone and you scan that with the phone app, you can use that code to get on it. And what this is it's an online lottery. You can't do it in the USA, but you can do it in most countries. And what happens is they're a charitable program, and so they actually have a philanthropic lottery portal, and they do all different types of lottery type of things. They got social gaming, they do Keno, they do raffles, they do all these are Powerball. So you can go out and you can become an influencer for them and help push this type of program if you're into that. So they're a sponsor for the show, so we wanted to push them out. So now we'll get back to Zohara and we'll get her information up so everybody can get it, because we've got her link to her Spotify artist page, and we're also got our own Ghost brand that we'll get our Boost brand back up. But yeah, so we're happy to have you on the show, and we got queued up your video. Well, it's actually like a lyric kind of YouTube video, but we like to show people the music before we get into the full interview. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually go and show this full video for Dream Cheater featuring Zohara. And then after the video, we'll get back into the full interview and talk about like how you got into music and everything else. So that's cool. That's all right.
Perfect. Let's hear it.
Yeah. So let's get into this. So let's start it.
I don't care, you're a dream cheater, dream cheater. Every time I see you, I just walk on by. I don't even wanna say to you goodbye, no. Every time you reach my mind, I realize you were the one for me. I keep on fantasizing, you were the one for me. I keep on fantasizing, you were just an ideal. Took too much time to get it, you were the one for me. I keep on fantasizing, you were just an ideal. Took too much time to get it. Why do you keep cheating me in my dreams? I don't care, you're cheating on me in my dreams. Why do you keep cheating me in my dreams? I don't care, you're cheating on me in my dreams. Every time I share it with you, you get mad. I don't even seem to give a little fuck, yeah. Every time I give a fuck, no, it's a lie. You with another girl, I keep on fantasizing. You with another girl, I keep on fantasizing. You and another bitch, well, this shit just turned me on, yeah. You with another girl, I keep on fantasizing. You and another bitch, well, this shit just turned me on, yeah. Why do you keep cheating on me in my dreams? I don't care, you're cheating on me in my dreams. Why do you keep cheating on me in my dreams? I don't care, you're cheating on me in my dreams.
it's Dream Cheater, and we're back to the main interview. So it's welcome Zara back, and that's their video. And we'd like to show the music because then people get an idea of the style that the music that you do. So previously, when we had an audio podcast, we couldn't do that, and so now we like to actually give people a good flavor of what type of music you're into and what you actually present as an artist.
Yeah. So actually I was getting it like pretty weird, the song. It was kind of delayed. I don't know. I hope the other listeners didn't get it weird as well as I did.
Oh, I heard it. I didn't hear a delay on my side. I'm not sure. Sorry about that
Okay.
if you heard it, but yeah, there was no delay on my headphone or coming through my mixer, so not sure what happened on your
Okay.
side. Well, we'll
Okay.
check it on the but
Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, I don't know. It depends on how what's coming out of the speaker. It might be the way you had it coming in your headphone. But
Yeah, maybe.
yeah.
Um
So maybe talk about that song before we get into the main interview questions.
Yeah, so actually, this song, so it's a kind of a funny story. So Dalmate is my friend and producer. We've been working for a long time together. His name is Roi, and we've been collaborating for like almost 2 years now. And we did this song like we're currently working on a concept album, and we've been working on it for such a long time, and we didn't even publish any song from it. So one day I came to the session with him, and he told me, listen to me, now we're making a song, and we're starting it today, and we're gonna finish it today, and we're gonna release it no matter what, and it's not gonna be related to the album. And I'm like, hell yeah, let's do it. And we just had this beat, and I had this idea for the lyrics of the Dream Cheater, because the other night, like, um I was dreaming about how my boyfriend was cheating on me, and I think everybody has those kind of dreams. And then we just started discussing and going with this idea further and further, and this is how it happened.
So that's your first. Is that your first release from this project you've been working on? Because you're working on an EP album, and then you decided to have a separate thing because you're not finished with the record, so you wanted something out.
Yeah, so it's not the first thing. We actually released also Game Boy. It's also on YouTube and Spotify and all the streaming. We released it first, but both of these are not a part of the
Oh,
album
they're
we're working on.
separate singles that are separate from the new project you're working on.
Yeah.
So when we get into the first question, we usually get asked people is like, how did you first get into music, and at what age did you decide you wanted to be a musician?
Um, well, so I was like 10 years old when my mom sent me to like a guitar class, and I really hated it at first because my mom, like, she really wanted me to do it. And as a child, when your mom wants you to do stuff, you usually don't want to do it. And I was just like falling in love with the guitar, and I was a guitarist for, I think, 5 or 6 years after that. Then I also took drum lessons, and I started playing in bands, like in school bands and stuff like that.
Hmm.
And after I finished my service, because in Israel you have to do like a national or military service, so I went to study in a music school because it was like in a music academy, um, because it's the passion.
So you learned like theory, and then do you do like typically if you go to a musical school, you learn theory, you learn like a writing instrument like a guitar or a piano. You understand all the structural details of how you get into songcraft. But did they focus on like classical or any specific like genre as like the basic traditional type of training, or was there an ability to get into like pop music and learn like the Beatles or stuff like that? Was it more like you got to learn Beethoven and Bach and Chopin, things like that?
So actually the school is for jazz and contemporary music, so it's a really wide range of stuff. I have no clue about classical music, to be honest.
Okay.
Um
Conservatories, that's where they start. Like if you I know there's some kids that go to schools and that they kind of get forced into that, and then they get either burned out by it and they don't want to do it, and then they become
yeah.
they go into rock or they go into alternative because like I can't I can't keep on doing all this classical because I'm not going to go anywhere with it. I mean, it teaches you a lot, and I started with that. To
Yeah.
learn. It does teach you like the basics of songcraft, and it's not bad. Like if you took some Beethoven or something, then later you can bring some strings into your work because you have the understanding
True.
of what that could be. But yeah, I think like a lot of people want contemporary because it's more what they're in tune with as a kid, as a young person. I think people want to learn what's more like their style or what they like.
Yeah, so they actually do have some like mandatory courses you can take in like harmony, and then you also have the chance to study like Bach's chorals
Mhm.
and a little bit of this classical music. But then you go to ensembles, and then you have a lot of choice opportunities. So I was in a gospel ensemble, and also like Afro pop ensemble, and we were studying like all these kinds of music from Africa and like from churches in the USA,
That's
which is
always
really different from everything else that I did in
yeah.
my life.
Well, it's a good thing, it's just kind of like the African American tradition in America is like, the blues, jazz, a lot of rock, hip hop. They're all kind of African American art forms that kind of came out of America. And like it's kind of being an African American musician myself, the church is kind of like the start is like everybody gets trained in the church and you learn how to play.
Really?
Well, yeah, like if you're a musician and you're African American, you usually first like exposure is in the church, like in a Baptist church or something, and then you get into the choir. You learn how to play the piano, and you
Really? I didn't know that,
yeah, it's kind of where a lot
actually.
of African Americans, like if you think about like Aretha Franklin, she came out of the church.
Yeah.
Marvin Gaye, a lot of the Motown artists. If you check the history, like Smokey Robinson, The Miracles, Temptations, Four Tops, Marvin Gaye, Aretha Franklin, Diana Ross, they all came out of like we're going to church, right? They learned to sing in church, but then they like wanted to do something more pop, so it became Motown, you know. But
Yeah.
it's that kind of bass kind of capability that he kind of learned the basics from learning how to sing with a gospel choir, so you can learn the harmony. You learn how to kind of play the piano because of what goes with those songs from the gospel songs, and then they kind of can go into rock. It can go into soul, and it's a good
Yeah.
place to start. Um, but I kind of went into punk and rock and progressive jazz and stuff like that because that's kind of like I like that stuff better myself. But when did you
Yeah.
realize you had a talent to want to write your own music? Because you can learn theory, you learn how other people have crafted, the classics and learn structure. But what made you want to write your own material?
So actually, it happened a lot before I started the music school. So, as I said, I started as a guitarist and as a drummist, but I I wasn't really secure about my singing. Um, but I really liked. I always loved to sing. Um, and there was like really it was kind of a coincidence that my friends were looking for a backing like a backing singer,
Oh, so a
yeah,
background singer, backup
vocalist,
singer.
yeah, yeah, for a band they had like a prog kind of progressive rock band,
Mhm.
which I really like, and I just like started hanging out with them a little bit, and then I really liked their style. They had like this kind of protest band,
Oh,
and protest songs and like
like a
heavy rock.
Like a Dylan kind of protest, but maybe rock.
Yeah, so I started writing. It's all in Hebrew, and I was writing with them, and then like I realized, okay, I have some songs I can do with the band, and then I started singing for the
Hmm.
first time in my life, and singing my own songs with the band, and it was really fun. We even had some sold out concerts in Israel, and I was like, I think I was 16,
So you got to be
17
the
years old.
lead singer for the
Yeah.
songs you wrote. You got the lead on them.
Yeah, so I fell in love with it. I never had the opportunity to sing that way on a stage like I did then. And then we even had like do you know Porcupine Tree?
No, I don't know that particular.
Okay, so they're one of the, I think, most famous prog bands in the world, and we had like this Israeli tribute band for them. We had a sold out. I was the singer also there,
That's cool.
and it was really really fun. And then after like doing all that, I just started focusing back on my music, but like started to developing. I think the music school really helped me to develop my own style, and I really love rock and roll and prog and rock, of course. um but yeah, I'm
So
still trying to figure out.
how did that feel being a lead singer? Because like going from, like you mentioned that you weren't confident that you're like you were a drummer and you were a guitar player. And a lot of people like for years I was a keyboardist and I never sang. I played keyboards. I'm like 50 and I played keyboards most of my life. I only started singing in the last like 8 years.
Really?
I started when I was like 17. But what happened was like
Yeah.
if in this industry, like if you don't sing for your own songs, then you can't really get that far. You kind of have to like, I mean, you could get far if you're just, a studio musician, but you're going to be in that kind of narrow place. But if you want to be like an artist that headlines anything, you kind of got to sing your own stuff. And so like taking that step from maybe not being confident to being a lead singer, did you have to go through anything to kind of get the confidence to do it, or you did the band help you and they believed in you so it wasn't hard?
Well, I think it was also some confident matters I had with myself, not only with singing, and it was a process, of just like growing up and starting to not really give a fuck and doing what I love.
Yeah.
And also, of course, the feedback from other people,
Hmm.
and the band totally was there for me, and they really believed in me, and and like I felt they really want me to be with them and to sing
Yeah.
with them, and like they really wanted to push me. So I think this whole thing together kind of like helped me to realize that I could actually sing and I could actually be good at it.
Yeah, like what I find is when you're with other musicians and the other musicians give you validation, then that kind of creates the confidence. And it's kind of weird because like I've been in situations where like the band, like the lead singer of the band is like when they get on stage, they're like super confident because they know that like when they're on stage, they kind of become a different person. And because they got the band there backing them up, they got a lot of bravado, and they're like wow. But then when they get off stage, it's like super shy, can't talk to anybody, kind of hiding. And I'm like, wow, like you can be totally different because it kind of frees you. It seems like music can free yourself, but sometimes it's like it's kind of in the confines of like, okay, where are you free? Like some people are free when they're on stage, like famous, like Michael Jackson and Prince. When they were on stage, they were like phenomenal. But if you try and
Yeah.
talk to them off stage, you couldn't believe they were the same person because they would be like, wow, they can't even communicate that well. But on stage they can, they could become a totally different person. And
Yeah.
do you find that you have like a stage persona versus like
Totally.
when you go on stage, you kind of have to be that kind of have that kind of self to be able to do it, I think, in a way.
Well, I totally think so. I think that the stage kind of you can't get away with it because it's literally scientific. Like the hormones in your body changes when you go up to the stage, so of course you will be a different person. um but I feel that there was one in the first show I had in Tel Aviv when I was 17. So I was really like I wasn't stressed at all like the days before and even the same day. But like 10 minutes before I was supposed to go up the stage, I was like completely panicking. And the other singer, he told me like, you'll go up on the stage and you'll see the moment you open your mouth, your ego will just rise.
Yeah, yeah, it
um
takes over.
yeah, so he was so accurate. I mean, the moment I opened my mouth and just the first note came out,
Mhm.
it's like it's like a whole different world. And
Yeah,
I don't know even how to describe it, but it's
yeah,
really, it's
I get,
amazing.
yeah, because I mean, I played in New York one time, and well, a couple times, and it's like at first I was kind of like scared a little bit because I had been played in Boston, I played in New Hampshire, but like New York is a way bigger place, and I just said, well, you know what? I just, kind of my keyboardist, I said, well, I'm just going to kick ass. Right. So it's like, I know if I'm on my Moog or I'm on my Roland, I can really do something that will get the attention of the crowd. So I won't have to worry about it. And then my musical voice is like, okay, well, I can, whether they like it or not, I can kind of cover by being like really dynamic on the board. But then they liked what my voice was too, so I was like, "Oh, cool." So but you never know like what the feedback's going to be like when you get to a venue because if you're doing something like experimental or something different, because like a lot of times people who are singer songwriters, you want to do your own song, right? So if you go out and you do like a famous song, like Hotel California, everybody loves that song, right? So you're probably going to do okay if you do a cover. But if you're doing your own personal work, then you kind of take it like, well, is the crowd gonna dig this, or are they gonna start saying like, I don't know that? Do
Yeah,
you ever kind of get that where people want the covers, or they're willing to listen to your original music?
of course. It really depends, of course, on the crowd and like if they know what they're coming to. Because if they know that they're coming to a concert to hear like new music, so I think they should know just what they're coming for, because then their expectations, sorry,
Yeah,
um um will be answered or not.
yeah,
But yeah, totally, I think most of the time people just want to stick to what they already know because it feels more comfortable for them. So this is why most of the time people want covers. But of course, I think that like for beginner artists, it's mandatory almost to
yeah,
combine some covers
covers,
as well in their concerts, because it could just like, if your music is not catchy enough or not interesting enough, so your show maybe just be boring. So
yeah. Because I've
um
sometimes like I'll go and throw in some like punk rock, like some Clash, some Ramones, some Zeppelin or something. Just because, like, if you throw a Zeppelin song, then you're in a rock kind of situation. Because I'm a progressive rocker, I like Yes and Genesis. So if I throw some kind of Pink Floyd thing or some Zeppelin type of thing, then the people are gonna be. Even if I don't actually do the full song, but I do a groove, like I take a little bit of Black Dog and I do it right, or I take a little bit of some Deep Purple or something like this, throw it in there, and
yeah,
it's kind of like a jazz musician. Like I like jazz a lot because you can sometimes when in jazz you can take a theme or a melody from something and throw it into your song and kind of just run it, kind of like what DJs do. But jazz musicians
yeah.
like, do it all the time. In jazz, it
So
happens all the time. You take something, and you throw it in. Miles Davis used to
yeah,
do it all the time. And it's kind of just to kind of get the crowd. Oh, I know that. I know that melody, and it kind of throws in and gets the attention of the crowd. If you're watching the crowd and they're not digging it, then you throw something in, and then they have to get them to dig it again.
yeah, exactly. Actually, I'm a DJ too, if I didn't mention it before. So I completely agree with what you said, because like even when I DJ, it depends like where I'm playing at. Because if I'm playing like in an underground club that people are just there to listen to some techno, they don't even care. As long as there is a beat going on, they don't even care what's going on.
Yeah,
But
yeah. As long as you got a kick and beat, yeah, that's good.
yeah, so if I'm just going to play at a party where I know that people are there to party, so there must be some familiar stuff
Yeah.
and some big hits to get people moving.
Well, I think it's a cool thing to be a DJ, because one thing I found, like DJs know where the grooves are, right? So it's kind of like in rap. If you think about rap MCs and DJs, when rap first, old school rappers, they used to
Yeah.
grab all these old R&B and disco and funk grooves from most of rap, early rap is based off of funkadelic, or it's based off of James Brown grooves that the DJs would find these grooves and then rap over them. And so it's today with like EDM, it's like the same thing. You just taking that nugget of some pop song or something that will groove. But I think it also, as a producer, being a DJ is a good talent as a producer, because you know where the hook is. So
Yeah.
if you're writing your own song, you can say, well, this thing's not hooking enough, and you can take your DJ talents and kind of bring them into your songwriting talents. And then, if you're on a grid doing clip based like construction of your music, you can go and make really, music that actually is going to get an audience, because you know how to actually keep an audience as a DJ, so that can translate to your production.
Yeah.
I think that's a
Um
useful talent, because some people try to say, "Oh, well, DJs, what are they gonna do compared to like a musician?" But like, I think it's all part of the same thing as a producer.
yes, definitely. I think that it really like I took the DJ course when I was studying in the music school. And I think it contributed to me in many ways, like especially when it's coming to groove. Um and also Roy, this is Dalmate, by the way.
Yeah, common for them.
um so yeah, so I think even Dream Theater, for example, I was really influenced by dance music, and it was really important for us to do something that is dancey and something that you can imagine yourself listening to in a club.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the goal, like, of every musician, is they kind of if you're into blues, like, we're all gonna be kind of pulling off a Lead Belly and Robert Johnson. It's kind of like everybody, like, people are like, I like to write original music, but like a blues guy, everything is off of like Robert Johnson or Bo Diddley, or if it's coming off of like traditional people that came before you, and then it's like how Stevie Ray Vaughan interpreted the blues, or how Hendrix interpreted the blues, where it's all coming from the same place. But
Yeah.
it's their kind of vision. And it's the same thing with, the more modern forms of music, is like you might have an influence. So maybe we'll get into your influences. Like I always take kind of my influence, like a Funkadelic, Miles Davis, yeah, Hendrix, Stevie Wonder, stuff like that. But who are your primary influences when you, as a songwriter? Who are the people you would like name check? Because you could have a
Wow.
lot of people, but maybe like your top 5 or something that they really made you want
So hard. So hard, and it's like constantly changing. I
to.
wow. So well, I guess I'd say there is an Israeli artist which got really famous in the past year. Her
Mhm.
name is Noga Erez. So I've been following her like I think 7 years ago when she was just like starting her way.
Mhm.
And I think she's one of my biggest inspirations. Also, Billie Eilish.
Yeah, yeah.
I think she's she's influencing everybody. um, also, I'm really influenced by all of the African American singers, the gospel singers,
Mhm.
and jazz. So I've been listening to a lot of jazz when I was in the music school, and you cannot not be affected by that.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
You listen to like jazz vocalist or more instrumental jazz?
so vocalists, yeah, as a vocalist that came to this school,
Hmm.
I was obligated to learn how to scat
Yeah, yeah,
and and yeah, so I was listening to a lot of Aretha Franklin, as you said,
yeah. She's
and
queen.
yeah, yeah, and also Kirk Franklin.
Yeah,
We
good.
were listening to a lot of that,
Yeah, it's good.
and
Modern day gospel. Yeah.
yeah, also a lot of Tom Misch and J.P. Morton. I
Hmm.
really like those styles. Um, so these are, I think, and Masego.
Okay, that's cool.
And these are my main inspirations. Yeah.
So I think I always try to get into like a writing like style or like process. Because some people today, because you can have these digital audio workstations like Pro Tools and Ableton. People are able to actually write their own music in their apartment. So my question is like, do you primarily like use like a DAW or like an Ableton or Pro Tools or something on a computer to do your music? Or do you have to go to a recording studio and do it there with like a demo and then you work with a producer? Or is it a combination,
Um,
maybe doing both?
so yeah, so actually I am doing both. Most of the time I am working with my producer because he's just like super fast and I can deliver my ideas to him really quickly. Um, he understands me like more than I can understand myself sometimes. But I do have like my own Cubase and Ableton, which I use most of the time. Depends on what I want to record.
Mhm.
Um, I have my little MIDI. It's here. I don't
You
want to touch
got
it
MIDI, so you
too.
got MIDI keyboard hooked up to your workstation. You got your like
Yeah,
your sound. A lot of times people have plugins, right? They use their sound modules off of the DAW where you can emulate like a Moog and stuff like that. Um, yeah, because I mean, I'm an old school guy. People can see all my old my Moogs and my Roland. I'm a hardware guy, so I'm a keyboardist. So I like having a piano, and I like having like a real like electric piano or a real like a Roland or a Moog. And it's kind of like that's just where I come from because I'm like in my 50s. So I actually was playing like in 78, 79, and they didn't have computers, right? So you had a guitar, you had a bass, you had
it's
a
so
drum,
crazy
you
to
had a keyboard.
imagine that. Oh my
Yeah.
god.
Musicians then. I mean, what was new back then is when we saw the DJs and like we were like, I'm a keyboardist, and I saw my first DJs. I was like, what kind of musician is that? And I was like, because we're like, I'm a keyboardist or you're a bass player or a drummer, and we walk in and they see this guy like flipping records, and we're like, what's that?
Yeah.
But it was
And
like,
now they're even doing it without the vinyls.
yeah, when they went up to vinyls on the CDJs, and we're like, but it was cool because they were doing stuff, and they did grab some tools. They had like 808s and
Yeah.
TBO, so they were using some hardware. And so, like as an electronic musician, when I first saw like the hip hop people, they had like 808s and they had TBO3s, and I'm like, and then they started using other drum machines like Lin drum machines and stuff, and I'm like, wow, it's like that's cool how you're integrating these clips off of these records because they're doing vinyl, and then they were doing like putting drum machines on top of the vinyl,
Yeah.
and then they started doing samples. And then it's like, wow. And then when you get like De La Soul, I really like De La Soul because they were kind of psychedelic hip hop. So they would come at it in a totally different way than like a Run DMC or like Planet Rock or any of the old classic stuff, or Kumo D and all. I mean, I kind of came up in that old school way, and
Yeah.
I really initially I was kind of rejectionist because I guess the way I was trained, as a musician, I was like, "What? That's not music." But then I started then you're like, oh, it's kind of like what traditional rockers, like when they saw the punk rockers, when they saw like the Sex Pistols and the Clash, and you had people who had been focused on their voice, and then you hear like Joe Strummer or Johnny Rotten, and you're like, well, that's not a like 5 octave voice. Like so,
Oh,
so yeah, Joey Ramone, and you're like, then it opened it up that like I like then I started to like punk. I mean, I like Joy Division, I like New Order, I liked like kind of this new romantic thing that happened. And that's how I got into keyboards because I started seeing the post punk people like the Clash, and then it became like Joy Division, New Order, Depeche Mode, The Cure, and that's why I got into keyboards because it's like wow, you can kind of take this progressive rock that came from bands like Genesis and Pink Floyd and mix it with punk, and then you get this new wave. And then instead of being these 15-minute like Pink Floyd songs or Yes songs or Genesis songs, you had 4 minute, 3 minute kind of pop focused synth work that was more based on funk and disco and still had some rock. And now like, well, that's a cool kind of hybrid. And that's kind of what, today it's like, synth wave and dark wave and, other things like bass, big bass type of stuff. But that's kind of where I came from. Because it was kind of in the 80s, everything was mixed together. But I still feel today, do you feel like you get influenced by multiple genres or you like want to stay within like a certain genre?
Um, totally. But about the what you said before about the analog, so I feel like I am also. So I didn't play in the 70s. I wasn't even born yet. But I feel like I definitely feel more comfortable just to sit with my guitar. But because I've been traveling a lot and I need to move a lot from place to place, so this is like the most convenient way to not carry all of my equipment with me. But
Yeah, yeah.
if I could have, so yeah, this guitar is definitely the best, the most comfortable, the most I don't know, it just like
You,
feels so right to sit down and write your music with your guitar.
you use the guitar as
uh
a writing instrument. Like some people use
yes.
piano, like might use
No,
a
no, the guitar is
use the
totally
guitar.
my, yeah.
I think that's a good way because I think the guitar is such an organic thing, like a piano. Like if you write a song on a piano, I think it can get really personal. And the same way, like when you write a song on a guitar, then it's got that organic feel because it's like it's a real,
True.
it's an instrument, right? It's a
You literally feel it.
yeah.
So
It feels like it's like a partner. Like when I play my Moogs or my keyboards, they feel like that's a member of the band. And because it's just weird because like if I just use something totally electronic, it doesn't have the feel if I'm playing like a piano. If I have a piano, then
yeah.
I can do things that just give a song that extra bit of emotion that I think that songs deserve. And sometimes today people get so caught up in the perfection of like what you can do in a DAW. You can make something so perfect and it
It's
sounds so
true.
great. But then you think about it, like if I listen to a song I really love from the 70s, like from the Carpenters or from Dylan or from Neil Young, it's like they're not perfect. If you go listen to them, there's timing errors, there are key
Yeah.
change errors in the final masters that got released. And but it's because of those kind of happy accidents and the errors that are in those songs that gives them kind of realism. And I
Yes.
think some people today might have kind of edited out some of the real in the music.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, like it's a cute story I feel like I want to tell. So, the first time I went to buy my electric guitar, so my uncle is a really great musician, and he is a guitarist also, and he took me like in as a Jewish we have this bat mitzvah, bar mitzvah. Are you familiar with those? Okay,
Yeah,
so
I had some friends.
so I was celebrating my bat mitzvah at 12, and I got like all this savings from my bat mitzvah, so I decided I want to put it all on on my first electric guitar. So he took me to this huge store in Tel Aviv where like all the walls are like guitars hanging, and then I like, okay, how the hell am I supposed to pick one guitar
With
from
100
all of
guitars,
these?
100 guitars, which one's the one?
Yeah, and like the salesman is trying to push me like, you should try this one, fill this one, and I really didn't know like what to do, and like I was just like playing some lines I knew and some chords just to see how it feels. But and then my uncle just like told everybody there that they were pushing me, just like, shut up, let her play, let
let her
her
listen and
feel the
listen.
instrument.
Yeah,
And then and I told him like, how am I supposed to know? I asked him like, how am I supposed to know which guitar is the one I should take? And he just told me, you're not supposed to know, you're just supposed to feel it.
yeah.
And I, as a 12 years old, like, what do you mean to
How to
feel it?
feel it.
How am I supposed to feel it? But then, like, I was playing some guitars, and like after 5 guitars I played, I started understanding what he meant. And as long as the time passes, the time goes by. So i f- I feel stuff so much, in a so much, like, so much better, and I understand what he meant
Yeah.
that point. Because if you don't feel your instrument and you don't feel, like, really feel your music, so it's just pointless.
Yeah, I would think like I know my brother is a guitar player, and I've worked with a lot of guitar players, and they've kind of told me like it's like the feel of the neck, it's the feel of what the pickups sound like. It's like the whole, like if you put it on, and like I know a guy that got like a Les Paul and he's got a Fender Strat, right? And he's like, well, my when I want to be very accurate, I use my Fender Strat, and I kind of can't really make mistakes on the Fender because it's not very forgiving. But if I'm on my Les Paul, I can just like rock out. It does it the way the Les Paul is. You can hear a lot of power chords on it, and even if you do single notes, it's not as a finesse instrument. So you can kind of get away with making mistakes on it. But if you're on the Les Paul, I mean on the Telecaster, like if you hit the wrong note, it's like it's glaring. It will come, it would just coldly come out, and it's like, oh, like, well, like, so if you're a punk rocker, maybe you want the Les Paul. But yeah, it's just like it was interesting. Like what his take on it was like, there some instruments are more precise, more like if you're going to be a lead guitarist versus a rhythm guitarist, versus like if you're gonna just be like a singer songwriter, be like a Bob Dylan, you just want some kind of like really good acoustic guitar.
Yeah.
It's kind of like what your feel is, because there's so many different flavors. I mean, I saw a story about Keith Richards. He had a semi brought to the recording studio, had like 500 guitars in it. So when he goes to record with the Stones, he's got like a truck, and in the truck is like 500 guitars, and he has a guitar tech, and the guitar tech will go out to the truck, and it'll tell him like, go get the 55 this, and go get the 54
Oh my
that,
god.
and get the 62 this, and he kind of knows which one he wants. And the tech goes out to the truck, and he gets so that kind of tells you like each guitar has such a unique tone or flavor that if you as you get bigger and longer in the industry, you kind of know which one you want for what song you're gonna do.
Yeah.
That's what I found from the people I know that were guitar players. But same thing as on keyboarders. Like if I get a Moog, if I have a 74 Moog versus an 80 Moog, or like some from the 60s, they all sound different. Traditional analog synthesizers are kind of like guitars. They even in the same model range, they can actually sound different. And so like a
Really.
71 mini Moog sounds different than a 72, and it's the same model, but they sound different. And so each Moog has a character to it, so it's not exactly the same. So you kind of get different ones to do different things. And it's the same thing with like a Roland or something like a Jupiter 8 versus like a Juno 106. It's like there's a reason why Duran Duran might use a Jupiter 8 on Rio, and then use like a D50 on a different song, is like because they have different sounds and they have different character for what you're trying to do. And as you get into these instruments like a Rhodes electric piano or like a Hammond B3, there's a reason why you'd use it versus something else. So it's kind of like you pick the tone based on what the feel is.
Yeah.
And it's kind of cool when you have these organic instruments to kind of, or this physically hardware instruments to kind of get they bring your character to the song. And I never know which one I want to use for a song. I start working on something, and then I kind of start knowing, well, this thing needs really like a Hammond B3, or this one needs a piano, or this needs that. Do you kind of get to feel like when you're working, like, does something need guitar, or does it need to have, pads, or does it need like an 808, or does it need like, do you kind of get into it, or you just kind of find it as you go?
Yeah, it depends like what is the style of the song I want to write. But even sometimes it can I can also like start with the guitar and then I realize it's not the right instrument to do it with. And then
And
I
then
just
go with a
I
keyboard.
just like try to figure out, I move to the keyboard, yeah, I move to whatever.
Because today it's so weird because you could go and write something like a 1970s kind of like barely stripped down guitar song, like an acoustic song, or then you could go
Yeah.
and grab like an 808 and do like a hip hop song, you know.
Yeah.
But and on the same record, like because the things are so wide open, you could bring like a 1920s flapper style into a song if it works, like because it kind of can grab anything. The way I look at it is like that's why I call my stuff like expansive sound because I like to like if I feel like bringing in some like blues rock, some Stevie Ray Vaughan, and like okay, I'll do that. But if I want to bring
Yeah.
like some Joy Division or some New Order or some Cure, like well I'll go that way. You kind of just like I don't know which way I'm gonna feel because I like so many different styles, and it kind of like your influences. You never know when you're a songwriter. Like you might not realize. And somebody one time I wrote a song and somebody said, "Hey, you pulled something from like Tangerine Dream," and I didn't even remember that I did.
Yeah.
I just had it in my head. I couldn't remember where it came from, and I had like this line that was in my song. It was like a tangent, and I was trying to rip them off, but it's just I just got pulled. That was like vibing with that, and so I wrote something that was kind of based off of a riff they did. And I'm like, yeah, I think that we all do that as songwriters. Like, there's something like it's in our head or it's in your kind of like,
Yeah,
right? Don't you feel like
totally.
pull stuff that maybe you're not aware that you pulled it or you are?
Yeah, I think it happened to me once. I don't remember like when or in what song, but actually like when we were doing Game Boy, so we took a lot of sounds, like we sampled some sounds from video games and like retro, like the
Yeah,
old video games like
like
from
16-bit,
Nintendo.
8-bit games, stuff like that.
Yeah, and we also like combine some disco stuff because we really love disco.
Mm.
So yeah, I feel like when we're talking about genres and like styles of music, I really I really don't like to say, yeah, I'm an R&B singer or I'm a pop singer. I really don't like to like put myself inside of this
Yeah, it's kind of good to
frame.
say you're expansive. That'd be one. I think if you say you're indie, you're kind of open, but then indie has a connotation that people might think it's some kind of rock and an alternative.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's kind of hard. Like you kind of say, well, I'm a like an independent musician. I kind of go wherever. That's why I said
Yeah.
it's expansive because expansive means I could do Nashville, Johnny Cash. I could do punk rock. I could do progressive rock. I could do whatever I want. And so that when I say it's expansive, I mean like I'm hitting like every genre. So you don't pin me down.
Expensive is a nice word. It's a nice word to use. Actually, like whenever people ask me like what kind of singer I am, like what style, so I just say you get to decide.
That's
I
another
don't
way that
decide
you can
that.
say, yeah, I'm a like multi-genre artist. I'm like,
Yeah.
because it's hard to get pinned down because people are mixing country with EDM and trance with rock and jazz with hip hop, and hip hop bands now have full backing bands. You have hip hop artists that go on stage with like a full band.
Yes.
A
Which
DJ.
I love. I
Band.
love it. It's
Yeah, I think
amazing.
yeah, it's just really cool to actually see it realized that way because then it's like not just the samples, actually people playing the parts. And I'm like, and that's all being a musician, I've always been like I like to go see like the Allman Brothers or I go see the Grateful Dead or I go see Funkadelic because I like to see like 10 musicians on stage interacting. And that kind of interplay is like I never know what it's gonna sound like. And I kind of get disappointed when I see a band go on stage and it sounds exactly like a record because I kind of
True.
came from the time where if I went to go see the Who, it's because they played Tommy a little different than what's on the record. They played it loud, like on a record, it's like acoustic. But when you go see the Who play Tommy live, it's electric and it's not the same as the record. It's totally different
You
interpretation
get the
of
experience. Yeah,
it.
you
Yeah.
get like a total different experience than listening to it in your headphones.
Yeah, but a lot of bands today will they'll make they'll do the live show exactly like the record,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and so
I
then
feel
it's like,
like when I do like my when I will do like my live shows, I even know who I want to be like in the band.
oh, so you want
I
to
have
have a
like
full
these people
band.
in
So
mind.
you got a full band you want to go. You don't want to just go with like a musical director just pushing the clips.
Not at all. No, it's not fun doing it this way.
Well, for a while, that was the way that a lot of people said that you should do it. Kind of goes through trends. So then I would go to clubs in New York, and people would say, "Well, just come on stage with your SD card and plug it into the machine and just push the button." And I'm like, "No, I got like 5 road cases, and I got to set up, and I got to do a sound check." And they're like, "That's old school." And I was like, "Well, that's the way it is. I'm a
So
band."
weird.
It's like I don't just have an SD card. I actually have
Yeah,
an instrument, and I actually have to sound check it. And they're like, "Oh, you're making me work," and I'm like, "Well, you're the stage manager. You gotta work." Because it's not that easy.
weird.
But
Yeah.
so what do you think about playing online? Have you done like online concerts because the way things are because of the pandemic? Have you done any kind of like online streaming stuff?
So actually, yeah, at the first lockdown we had in Israel, I did, but as a DJ, not as a singer.
Oh,
So
cool.
everybody were so depressed. I felt like I have to do something to make
People
people
happy.
happy,
Yeah.
and we just pulled like a Zoom party kind of thing,
Mhm.
and I had like this playlist of only like happy hits, happy songs, and actually like there were so many people and I saw the people dancing on my screen.
Well, that's
Really it was really cool, it was really cute, and like even people I don't know came. Like there were a lot of people, and at one point like I played at home with my headphones, and also like I have like back in Tel Aviv like really huge speakers, and
mhm.
this was like full volume, and it was at night, and then the police came to my house, and like I was all alone in my house playing music full volume. The police officers like they
They
were like,
they
who are
did.
you here with, because it's in the lockdown. They had like the
They thought it
suspicions
was
that
a
I'm pulling
party.
a party. Yeah. So I told him like I'm alone here, like you can come in to see. I have nobody here,
No
I just
worries.
playing music with myself, and they gave me a fine, and yeah.
Well, that's the thing. Like, if you're a musician and you don't get the police to shut you down, it's like you're not a real musician. It's kind of like bands get in trouble for playing too loud. Like kind of like what our thing in the '80s. We go to clubs and then we like I was kind of punk, so I had a punk band, and we're like
So
we
yeah.
come in and we play super loud and we get in trouble because like because like
Actually, I want to show you something. So I was playing here in Vienna, like at the first party, the first gig I had in Europe, and like this is a note I got from one of the managers of the place, and it was so cute that I had to
just to
keep
play
it.
in bed.
So yeah, we have guests who paid for a bed. I had to be the party pooper, but this is just way too loud.
Well, you're doing it right because
Yeah, yeah, because like every time he came and he asked me to put
turn
the volume down, because it was like it was in a hostel, so it was like they
oh, so
had a club in the hostel. So he came like after 1 hour and was like, it's too loud, can you please put it down? So I'll just like put it down a little bit. When he went back, I put it
you
back
put that
up.
back.
Because people were dancing and they were having fun. I couldn't just like, you
Well,
know.
if you have a party, it's a party. It's kind of like yeah, if you're gonna be well, punk bands and rock bands, we're always getting in trouble for being too loud because like we start at 9 and we say midnight. We want to keep on going because people keep say keep on going. And then the cops say, hey, no, shut it down. But yeah, it's kind of like I don't know. It just feels cool, when you're playing loud. I mean, if you're playing rock, it's gonna be loud. Playing punk, it's gonna be loud. Play hip hop is loud. Like all EDM's loud. I mean, a lot of the forms that we play today, in order to get people into it, it ends up, the bass is kicking on the EDM and the hip hop. And trance stuff is got like a lot of heavy bass, and that's loud compared to like a heavy metal band, like they're wailing, with the loud guitars and the big drums, like the real acoustic drums. But I digress. But yeah, it's we actually did an online concert back in July, called the Peg Bedroom Producer Festival, and we're doing it again in February. And so we're inviting all the podcast guests, and that's the qualification. Anybody who's been on the program. The last one we did, we had 22 bands that actually had been on the program, play like half-hour sets from wherever they could, either basement or the garage. Some bands actually had like venues that they
So
played.
amazing.
Yeah, and so we're like, if you want to do it, if you have a way to do it, we also accept video. So if you were able to do a video somewhere else, we take the YouTube videos and MPEG 4s. So if you're into it, we're scheduling now. We can talk offline on it. Um, but
We
yeah,
definitely will.
we just think artists should have a venue to do their music, and because we have this podcast, we figured out, oh well, the same thing that we're doing here, we can actually have a band play. We had sometimes people come on the podcast and they have an acoustic guitar and they'll actually play a song rather than doing the video. And we're going to encourage that more in the future with bands that actually want to play. Like during an interview, if they want to do like an unplugged, they can go do it. And so we're trying to set that up for 2022 to have more people do that as part of the show. But on top of doing the festival, we might do single events. So if people can't get a show, we could actually host like a Zohara concert on our network and actually run it, like if you wanted to do it. So we're going to operate like a way to provide people a place to play. That's something
Awesome.
that we think is important. So we hope your audience is into that. We hope everybody like enjoys what you're doing.
Yeah.
What's the target date for the project, the album EP you're working on?
I think we'll know those details better when I go back to Israel and I get like to the session routine with my producer.
Mm-hmm.
But it will be in 2022 for sure.
For sure. So by sometime in 2022, you'll have it. It'll
Yeah.
drop. Yeah, we would totally invite you to do. We've had artists do album release episodes where like prior,
Yeah.
like, if you actually have it getting ready to drop and it's already done, that we actually go and have an episode that's like a 1 week or the week of release, and we actually have you like either play a song or talk up all the songs, show videos if you have them, play from the album if you have it, and kind of do it as a promotional thing. So we invite you to do that when you're ready. Just let us know.
We will do that. Actually, like the album is almost ready.
Well,
It's a full album. It's not an EP though.
oh, that's awesome. I'm
Yeah.
an album guy. I just dropped an album.
Yeah, we should listen to that as well.
But I do too many albums, so people will get upset with me because I said like 5 albums this year because I'm crazy. But
5 albums this year.
yeah,
Wow.
I write all the time, and because I got all the stuff I can, so I don't stop. I've just been doing it for a long time.
Amazing.
I just like to write, so whether or not, well, I mean, I got a big catalog. I just keep on doing it, but yeah, one thing we like to do is also have cross collaborations with people who've been on the show. So a lot of times what happens is people watch, like they see you here today, right? They see their YouTube video and then they go, hey, I really like Zohara. And they'll come in and say, well, how do I get in touch with her? Maybe she wants to like work on a song. And then, we can send pitches your way if people want to talk to you. But like some artists are open to it or not. But we think it's like a community because like if you think about it, like if people are on the show are all kind of independent musicians, and sometimes people find that they have like similar thoughts or they think they could work together. We try to help create that kind of vibe because we think it's like it's a community of musicians, and if people want to get together, it's kind of like in the 60s. Bands used to just cross collaborate all the time.
Yeah,
They would,
actually, yeah, I really like collaborating and meeting new artists always. I'm always open for suggestions. And because my studio is everywhere, I
yeah.
can even work from everywhere. So, yeah.
But you never know because you meet some producer or another musician and they bring something to the table that you never expected, and then you end up having the combination of two artists coming together, or three or four, it suddenly becomes a band, or suddenly becomes a duo,
Yeah.
or you get a totally different vibe because got a producer comes in and they have a different opinion on how to present your view. As a singer songwriter, we all have our own vision, but then if we work with certain producers, they make that vision come to life, you know. And then some people can actually make it come to life in a totally different way than what you're actually used to. Like I like our Brian Eno is a good example. If you think about Brian Eno, when he comes to U2, he makes them sound totally different than they ever do. He did something with Dylan, it doesn't sound like normal Dylan. And so he kind of brings his kind of aesthetic, and people have an idea what an artist sounds like, but then this producer comes in and changes them, and sometimes it's cool and sometimes it's not. But yeah, we just like the whole idea of the possibility that you can advance your sound or change your sound, just by connecting with other people.
Music is connecting everybody. It's like a common language everybody can have, and I feel it can be like a bridge to so many cultures and so many places in the world, and it can really get people closer together, which
Yeah,
for
I think
me,
it's great to bring people together instead of pulling them apart, because like that's the thing I love about music, because like you can write something in literature and you can actually be very divisive. But with music, a lot of times you can do that in music too, but most of the time you try to do something that actually elevates. At least I try to create something that people are gonna think, wow, you can take something painful in your life and then make it universal. I think it's one of the cool things about music is that you can take something that maybe hurt you. And a lot of songwriters, what our talent is, we can take something that really affected us and then get the whole world to kind of understand it in the context of music, because everybody has the same feelings. And even though it might be something that was like hurtful, because you took it and made it creative, you actually like are finding this common thread that is universal and people understand it. And I think that that's a positive thing to do. As a musician, I think that's what we do. We help people get
yeah,
their lives, because everybody has stories that are similar, and because you're a writer, you can convey it, and then other people can pick up on it and say, "Well, I felt like that." And then that I think that's what's cool about being a musician, because you never know how people interpret your work. Has
it's true.
anybody
And
ever, yeah, has anybody ever told you that like a song you wrote like really vibed with them or like connected with it?
yeah, so actually, yeah, it was most of my writings in Hebrew though. But yeah, I feel like also a lot of them a lot of songs that are instrumental and don't have any lyrics on them, so even it could be a really huge like connector, because people don't like, not everybody speak English, of course, and I think that like it's so amazing to see, and it is so popular just to see two people without the ability to communicate with language
Mhm.
just gathering around, and they have like a groove. Some of them can like do like a beat on the table with his bare hands,
Yeah,
and the
yeah,
other guy can do like a harmony, and they will have the best time of their lives, without even talking.
yeah. I
And
love
this is the
that.
power of the music.
That's what's really great, because I'm actually working with some foreign language like musicians, or musicians like that speak Italian, musicians that speak like Dutch, and then working with artists. And it's just because like we're musicians, like we might not have the same language, but we can get into the groove. Like I can do a Moog bass line and they'll groove on it. And then
Yeah,
they'll put something on top of it, or to pick the samples or pick the melody lines off of their MIDI or whatever. But it's just the idea, if you're a musician, no matter whether or not you speak the same language, I think all musicians, if you get in a room with a musician and you just start playing, and then the other musician starts vibing or singing, you'll always be able to create something, because I think every musician kind of has the talent to kind of just pulls things out of the ether, be able to pull like a poet who pulls from the muse.
Yeah.
I think we just, if we you give us the opportunity and you give us the space, we can always create something.
We can also take the opportunity without people giving it to us.
Yeah, we can independently, we can do our own thing, but it's really cool when you actually vibe with somebody. I mean, some of my best
Yeah.
moments as a musician is actually, recording with a drummer and a bass player and a vocalist as a keyboard player, because I'm kind of part of like the whole picture, and then coming in
Yeah.
and hearing something
Yeah,
that's,
you are
yeah,
actually.
and then you bring in that like a piano. If you had a band that didn't have a piano player, right? They'll come in, have bass, guitar, whatever, and then I come in as like a piano player. I can kind of change the character or add some elements that weren't there, right? And then they're like, wow. And even the chief songwriters, if I'm not the chief songwriter, but if I come in, I kind of it's like, well, this is what I heard, and this is what I bring to the table. And it's like that's kind of what's cool about music, is like you can alter it. Not that you're gonna alter it like massively, but you can make it, you can accentuate it. You can come in and add something. That little tiny thing could add a lot of character, just by putting some keys,
Yeah.
things into something that didn't have it. You can kind of change the nature of what it was. And that's really cool about that process. Is I just love working with on my own stuff, but also with other people. It's just fun to kind of see what I can do. But I think all musicians and producers probably feel that way. But I think we're getting to the hour point, and we just want to be able to, have our partners who stream this. If we go over it, then they say, "Oh, it's too long."
Yeah.
But yeah, it was great talking to you. The fact that we went in over an hour, I think that's really cool. And I
Thank
just,
you so much. I love being here. Thank you for the opportunity.
but thank you very much. Yeah, we had another comment.
Shabbat shalom. It's already a new week, so Shavuot tov.
We're just gonna push our one of our sponsors again, because they probably want us to do it. So everybody, go and check out Double Jack Online. That's our sponsor. Yeah. And they're helping us out, and you can be an independent influencer with them, and then that will help and all artists need a little push and need some help. So that's cool if you go and check that out. And as we just get off to this episode, we encourage everybody to check out your page, your artist page, in which we have streaming, and this will be going to Spotify now. One thing we want to say before we go is Spotify has approved us for video podcast.
Woo!
So within an hour, this will be on Spotify, just the same way it's on YouTube and Twitch and Facebook. And so if you like listening to Spotify, now you can actually watch video podcasts on Spotify, not just ours, but other people are starting to push their video podcast too. And we encourage everybody to check out all the cool podcasts that are on Spotify, because it's a cool place to be. Thank you very much for being on the show, and we'll talk
Thank
to
you
you
so
again.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.